I think people are still coming in, but let me just slowly start with a very warm welcome to all of you who are attending the Student Town Hall. Let me begin by acknowledging that UBC Okanagan is situated in the territory of the Silks Okanagan Nation and their peoples. I would also like to acknowledge that you're joining us today from many different places near and far, and acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands. So my name is Ananya Mukherjee Reid, and I'm the Provost and Vice President Academic of UBC's Okanagan campus. This is a year, as we know, that this will be different in many ways from those of the past, and also one that will explore new ways in which we have to connect, learn, and interact with each other. So today's town hall is a second in the series, and with the same goal that we are able to answer a few more of students' questions about what they should expect. You will hear from university leadership, faculty, and students who will present on what your exams, class participation, labs, and other forms of student support would look like in this environment. I know that there are two questions that are top of mind for students, and I frequently hear them. And I will try to give you some answers to that as best as I can. So there's one about course delivery, how exactly we would be delivering your program to you. And the second one is about tuition. So in terms of course delivery, as you already know, that health and safety is our priority. And we continue to work closely with the Ministry of Advanced Education, Skills and Training, and with other post-secondary institutions within BC to ensure that our plans are aligned with the health and safety guidelines. So with the session, with the winter session, term 1, which goes from September to December 2020, the courses will be delivered online with a very few exceptions. And on-campus locations for whatever is offered in person might also have to change to accommodate physical distancing requirements. And we will, as I said, we'll monitor the public health guidelines very closely for this purpose. For term 2, I think, which begins in January, I know that all of you are very anxious to receive the direction on that. And I think within the next 24 to 48 hours, you will be hearing something more about that. In terms of tuition, I know that there is a concern or a question that has been raised as to why tuition cannot be reduced when our delivery is all online. Now here, what I can tell you is even though the delivery is online, we have not actually cut corners in any of in any of the quality of the learning experience that we had hoped to provide when we meet in person. So you're still going to be taught by the same professors in the same ways. Only thing is it's going to be online. And, you know, we are a publicly funded organization, so tuition is a vital part of our resources. And you might know that taking in even considering the tuition, UBC is currently projecting a deficit of $225 million. So hopefully that scenario will improve over the near horizon, but we are looking at significant financial issues in the short term. And in terms of the tuition increases for the coming year, these are discussions which happen throughout the university, including in consultation with students. And the final decision is made by the Board of Governors. So we expect that in December 2020, the Board of Governors will have all of this input with them. and make a decision regarding that. Regarding fees, there is also an ongoing discussion, and I think student unions are also being consulted on that, and we will, as we know more about what happens to fees and there are any changes, we will be able to update you regarding that. But right now, I don't have any other information to provide in that regard. Now, I think I will stop here, and I just want to introduce our moderator for today, Heather Berenger, who is our Associate Provost Learning Services and Chief Librarian at UBC Okanagan. So in her role, she provides leadership in the planning, development, and coordination of the integrated learning services for UBC's Okanagan campus. Over to you, Heather.
Thanks very much, Ananya. Today's town hall is designed for a student audience. So to get a better sense of the students who are attending today, I'm hoping, technically this will work, to post a poll. So if you're a student, can you please answer the poll that should be appearing on your screen? This poll is asking you what year of study you're going into, year 1, year 2 or 3, year 4 or 5, or graduate studies. We'll take about 30 seconds or so to let you answer that question. Great, so just to share those results, I'm sure you can see them, but about half of the folks here are in year 1, welcome. Year 2, 3, about 30%, 11% in 4, 5, and 5% of our graduate students, hello to them as well. Thanks so much for taking the time to do that for us. For the session today, I'm going to invite each of our speakers to provide brief remarks about their topic, and following that, we'll have a question and answer session. To facilitate the discussion today, we're going to be using the Q&A function, which many of you have already discovered, I can see. To ask a question of any of the panelists, you just click the Q&A icon that's at the bottom of your Zoom window. Other audience members can engage by liking the questions that they find the most interesting, and we're going to do our best to answer as many as we can of the most popular questions in a Q&A after the formal remarks. First, we're going to hear from faculty on what students can expect exams and assessments to look like. We have 2 UBC faculty members here today who will speak to this. And first, I'd like to invite Nina Langton, Associate Professor from the Faculty of Creative and Critical Studies, followed by Deanna Gibson, who's Associate Professor in the Irving K. Barber Faculty of Science. We'll start with Professor Langton.
Thanks, Heather. And hello, everyone. Konnichiwa. Today I'm going to be talking about specifically what I plan to do for assessment, but I think you'll find that there will be different kinds of assessment methods depending on the discipline and class size. So if you're in a large psychology class, you can probably expect to be evaluated somewhat differently than if you are in my small Japanese language class. But today I'm just going to give you some examples of what it is that I do. In languages, we tend to do a lot of smaller assessments more often so that you can demonstrate how you're progressing in your learning. I tried to move gradually from almost daily low stakes formative assessments that help you to learn to somewhat higher stakes summative assessments where you show me that you've mastered the material. So we'll start with a lot of online quizzes on Canvas to check your comprehension, make sure that you understand the video lectures or the text materials. And these are usually for completion marks, and you can do them as many times as you want. So here's a little graphic of what one of those quizzes might look like if you're new to Canvas. Homework assignments, workbook assignments are also usually for completion marks, and sometimes I mark it, or sometimes I get you to send me a PDF or even a photo off your camera that shows that you've tried it, and then marked yourself from a key that I've provided, and then hopefully that shows how you've learned from your mistakes. For larger projects like videos and essays, that sort of thing, I usually provide a rubric before you start so that you know how you're going to be graded. And I think that you can probably expect that from a lot of your profs. This year, I'm also going to include a project where I ask my students to create the rubric and the grading scheme. And hopefully that will give them an opportunity to think at a sort of macro level about what makes a good project and what's important to assess. I want to support your learning during these projects by providing feedback on your drafts as you go along. So you submit your assignment on Canvas and I can mark it up with comments and highlighting, that sort of thing, and then send it back to you on Canvas, and then build in how you respond to that feedback on your next draft into your final grade, so that's how you can show me how you're improving. The drafting process might also involve peer feedback and evaluation, and this can be done easily through Canvas on the discussion boards or in real-time breakout groups on Collaborate Ultra or Zoom, which is the teleconferencing system that's built into Canvas. So the work that you do for peer assessment also becomes part of your grade on that project. I can also give audio or video feedback on recordings through Canvas. So if you're, for example, submitting a pronunciation assignment, I can record my comments and then you can listen to them as many times as you want. And that's one of the great things about digital feedback, is that it's always there for you to refer to. Other audio video feedback might be real-time oral chats or whatever, using Collaborate Ultra or Zoom. And for these kind of assessments, I would hope that you would turn on your camera so that we can actually have a conversation sort of face-to-face. Also going to be assessing participation in the Zoom synchronous classes. So students will show up at the assigned times, and probably I'll put you into breakout rooms and give you a task to do, and then you'll have to submit some sort of evidence that, that you participated in that task. I also plan to allocate grade to discussion board participation, and these can be on questions or topics that either I assign or that the students come up with. And they can be multimedia posts like video as well. So there's a little picture of what a video post might look like on a discussion board. And if I could have the next slide, please. So then there's the summative assessments, and they usually happen at the end of the unit or the semester. And this year I'm going to reduce the weight of this type of evaluation, just because I find that for the students taking an online exam and for myself monitoring one, it's quite a stressful experience. So instead of a lot of high stakes online tests, I'll be putting more weight onto evaluating project work. So hopefully that lowers both the stress level and the temptation to perhaps ignore academic integrity rules on online tests. But the smaller chapter tests that I do online will be time limited, and each student will get randomized questions from a larger question bank. So everybody's going to get a slightly different exam. And I'm going to try and ask questions that you have to answer from experience, rather than something that could be just sort of copied and pasted from somewhere else. But some profs will be using, I haven't used it myself, but a proctoring software that basically has a camera on it while you're a camera on you while you're taking your exam, and your browser gets locked down so that you can't go to another site. So you might want to be prepared for that. Maybe somebody else can speak to that a little bit more. And I'm sure that some profs will be doing straight take-home open book type exams. So that's also another option for assessment. So that's it for me, and ganbatte kudasai. Good luck on your semester.
Thanks so much, Professor Langton. And now I'm going to turn this over to Professor Gibson for her comments.
Sorry, are my slides going to go up? Thank you. Okay. Yes, my name is Deanna Gibson, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about online assessments, as this is a topic of really great importance to most of you, I'm sure. So why we do assessments is because we need to evaluate your achievement throughout the course, look at learning outcomes, and provide feedback as well. This year we're doing everything online, so it's a little bit different. But I think that after I've reflected on this for a long period of time, while I'm changing a lot of how I assess students, I think it's still actually really great. And it's made me think about actually changing how I assess students in the future, even when we're back to face-to-face. So the goal is really for us to gather enough information to facilitate the assignment of a grade. And this is important for you to understand what we're doing at the beginning of class, because it is known to be a source of motivation for you and drive your decisions when you're studying. I think you should assume that as much effort to learn course material or complete assignments as face-to-face needs to be taken for online. And I do think that rigorous assessments will be facilitated online. So I think in general, we're going to be really flexible, or I'm going to be really flexible, but for you guys to be successful, you need to be self-motivated and self-disciplined. This is going to be key. Next slide, please. So what you'll find is that faculty will have a preference for what they're going to do. So the only thing I can guarantee you is that there will be a lot of variation from class to class, from professor to professor. One of the things that instructors tend to think about is how to maintain academic integrity, how to connect you guys, because you're all going to be isolated. Even though we're going to be together, we're still not side by side. And the other thing that worries us is the technical issues. Probably the things that you're really worried about is, how is this going to be fair? Is this going to be equitable? Will it be transparent? Are there going to be technical issues on your part? Will there be lost opportunities? And all of these concerns are valid, and we're just going to work through it the best that we can. The options that I'm thinking about, or that I've heard other professors thinking about for online assessment, includes those online exams. So it'd be very similar to what you would have done face-to-face, but this time, now you're using your computer and video and software that sort of monitors you, just like an instructor would. So there's this option, and this is likely to be the case for many first-year classes. Some other types of assessments include essays, writing, or research projects. This is something that I've implemented in my classes, and it's something that I'm really, really happy about, so it's something that I'll probably change for the future, even when we're back face-to-face. There could be oral exams, or what I call a video exam, which is we ask a question, and then that day you make a video of the answer and then upload it onto Canvas. Could be open book exams, or I've heard some faculty indicate they're going to do timed high-speed exams. So you get an exam question and you have 30 seconds to answer it. There might be a lot more critical thinking assignments in replacement of some exams, given the online nature, and there may be group projects or e-portfolios. So there's lots of different options. I think faculty have spent a lot of time thinking about this and are going to be creative. But I do think that rigorous online assessments are absolutely possible. And I think I will let the next speaker go on, or questions. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Professor Gibson. We have some space for questions at the end of the session, so we will probably call on you again. Thank you very much for that. I'd now like to invite Dr. Ray Taheri, Associate Professor in the School of Engineering, to speak about what participation in class will look like in an online environment. You are muted, Professor Taheri. You are still on mute, Professor Taheri.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, good to go. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, well, sorry about that. Hello, everyone, and thank you for including me in this iconic event. I will be teaching 4 courses next year, including my signature AppSci 171 course. It's a CAD/CAM course. Students go over a design thinking process. Almost it's engineering in a nutshell. Start from creating empathy for the stakeholders all the way to the evaluation. I tell my students often as a joke, if you don't like this course, either you don't like me, which is humanly impossible, or you don't like engineering, you have to think about maybe another profession in your future. There is some truth into it. They learn a lot in this course, but there are 2 major sets of skills they take from this course. One is the problem solving skills. So they have to come up with solutions, they have to pick the best solutions, and they have to work on the best solution. I think it's very essential for students to learn this regardless of the discipline. The second one is a communication, this interpersonal skills, time management, stress management, conflict resolution, leadership, teamwork, and so on. I want to reiterate again, I think these 2 sets of skills are by far the most important set of skills a student should learn being in any class in the higher education system. So you might ask, why these 2? Why not many other skills? Well, allow me to answer this question with raising another question, and then I go on tangent and talk about the class participation. Why students come to class anyway? Why they come to, in a bigger picture, university? You might say this is a very trivial question. They want to study, they want to learn, they want to acquire knowledge, but these are very cliche answers. Several researchers, they have conducted research in this area to answer this question, including a group of prominent education researchers in UK a few years ago. They conduct a survey among 17,000 students at university. They ask, why you go to class? Why you participate in the class, online or offline? I would like to go briefly and talk about a few of the answers. Some people say, I love studying. So that means they love to see me every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 8 o'clock, being challenged in the class, surprise quizzes, hard midterm, long assignments, even harder final. They love it, love it, love it all. Maybe in a parallel universe, but we know that that's not the reason, and only a very small percentage of the students answer to this question that I love studying. Having said that, allow me to give you a little quote from Natalie Portman, a very talented actress, but also she's very eccentric. She said, I don't like study. I hate study. I love learning. Learning is beautiful. You might say learning to study, these are the same thing. They are not. You can learn a lot by minimal amount of study, or you can study a lot, but they get minimal learning outcome. Let's go to the next choice. People saying that, well, everyone else does. Everyone comes to class. My older brother John did. My cousin Jane did. Well, you don't want to be a follower. Some people say, I come to university or a class in a sense because I like the lifestyle. Yes, university lifestyle is exuberant, it's entertaining, it's vibrant, you live in cutting edge, but these are icing of the cake. These are desserts. They are not steak and vegetables. Some people say, I come because my parents want me. I mean, I respect them. That's good, fair enough. Parents mostly know what is good for their children, and some of them are very adamant to send their children to gain further education. But 87% said, I want to get a job. I want to make a living. I tell my students, change your vocabulary, change your life. Instead of getting a job, think about building a lifelong fulfilling profession. Instead of make a living, why don't design a life? So true is the students come to my class or anyone's class, online or offline, because they want to have a better future. They want to be a profound and a positive member of their community, country, around the globe. They want to make their loved one proud. They want to make grandchildren proud. That's the reason they come to the class. This is important. Now, having said that, let's just have a little bit of like a role play. Imagine we are all here, are top-notch car manufacturer designers. We are the best in the world to design vehicles. And Tesla asked us, get together and make the next generation of vehicle. What is our approach? We all get in a room, lock the door, put our brain together. 6 months later, yes, we did it. Here is the best car ever made. Everyone should buy it. I don't think so. The approach is we first go to the consumer report. They will go through the process of what are the end user wants. Is it safety? Is it luxury? Is it comfort? Is it autonomous vehicle? So we get raw materials and then we change it, we process it, and we make something that's good for end user. Or you might say this is well taken. Yes, everyone knows that. But what it got to do with the class participation? What it got to do with education? Well, it got everything to do with it. The same process. You know, what is the raw material? Beautiful, brilliant, young minds, fresh like a spring daisy. They come to our classes, they put their lives and fates in our hand. They want us to carve this uncarved stone, make the next future Michelangelo's David. Make them ready for the end user. Who are the end user? Tesla, Bombardier, BMW, Google, Microsoft. So this is exactly what we need to do. And allow me to just go a little bit longer and say about the fact that we have already have this box. So we have the input, we have the process, we have the output. The only thing is missing is what is the requirement for the end user? What we can do and train our students that they would be lined up for them before they graduate to get a job. That's $1 million question. Did you know 250 years ago, as an engineering world, if you knew how to use a slide ruler, you could have get a job as an engineer. That's it. You can use this device to do advanced math, logarithm, cosine, sine. You get a job. But today, people are using calculator. Did you know 200 years ago, early 1800, if you were a very knowledgeable person, you knew all the formulas, you know all the theory about engineering, just being a walking encyclopedia of engineering, you could have get a job. But today, people Google it. Who's going to need you to do memorizing these things? Did you know in mid-50s, by knowing lots of advanced calculation, you could have get a job as an engineer, but today we have quantum computers, billions of trillion times faster than any human mind. Last but not least, in 17s and 80s, you could have get a job just by knowing using a software, AutoCAD, Lotus 1, 2, 3. But today, kids are better than adults and even educated ones using these softwares. Now you might say, wait a minute, this is a kind of enigmatic, what they need is not a knowledge base, it's not using the tools, it's not the software, what they need to learn and what skills they need in order to get the job. Same two sets of skills. So problem solving skills and interpersonal communication, knowing where the problem is, stop problem from propagating. So these two sets of skills are the most. And that's why these days, you know, headhunters go to Inventathon. People even don't have education or like a formal education in university, they get a job. So in my class, and I'm sure many of my colleagues, they do the same thing too. So I promote and foster leadership and integrity on and offline. I give you some examples. Like for example, a few years ago, they made a headline. So they made this personal belonging cards and it was in Kelowna and then everyone saw that. A couple of years ago, we did the closing donation bins. Imagine the first year, first time students make a headline news, the sky's the limit when they graduate. So I just want to mention that class participation, attending the class, it's absolutely a function of what the students expect to learn. I mean, let me give you another interesting example. If you go to a restaurant and can get the exact same food that you can get when you are home, will you go to a restaurant? Of course not. You go only because you get something better, higher quality, better service, better environment. And I try and I try to deliver this. So this year, students working in two very interesting projects. One obviously is about COVID-19. So come up with some kind of mechanism, a device that actually stop the transmission, reduce the possibility of transmission without, you know, changing the social life. I can go at top of a mountain and of course I won't get COVID-19, but I have no relation with anyone. That's one, very interesting. And the second one is that there's a problem with a city of Lethbridge recycling issues, and then we are going to work on it. So I really would love to see my students online and offline. I will teach exactly the same way. In fact, interestingly, I have printed all my students' faces and in the desk, and I go to the class as if they are there. And definitely it makes me feel I'm in a class, and it makes them feel they are the part of the class. They participate, they play an important role in my class. So I'm looking forward to see them, and hopefully I can answer some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Taheri. Next, we're going to hear from Tamara Freeman, who's an associate professor of chemistry in the Irving K. Barber Faculty of Sciences. And she's going to present on what labs could look like online. Professor Freeman?
Thank you, Heather. So let's see, where should I start? Over the summer, I've been working really closely with the graduate students and the laboratory manager for all of the chemistry labs going forward. And to let you know in a short little snippet is that we are really excited about what we've created for you moving forward with the labs. You're probably going to lament the fact that you can't do the hands-on physical manipulation of the equipment, but there's so much more to learning in the lab than just touching the equipment and preparing the chemicals. So what I thought I could express to you today is some of the major themes across all levels of learning in the chemistry labs. So you're going to see, let's see, I made a list. You're going to attend your labs through Canvas. You're going to meet with your TA. There's going to be introductions. There's going to be discussions, facilitated discussions. There's going to be videos that you watch. There's going to be simulations that you interact with. There's going to be small group opportunities for you to work together in pairs or small groups. And these are all things that are normal experiences for the laboratory. But what we're also doing is we're pushing some boundaries, and we're exploring some opportunities in the labs that you would not necessarily have got in the hands-on typical experience. So what we're thinking about, and let's see, I'll go with some examples. In the fourth year lab, one of the experiments that's been developed is sort of a choose your own adventure. So you've got the manipulation skills, you've got the concepts at your fingertips because you're a fourth year level student. So what we're doing is, let's say you push this button instead of this button. What happens? So you've got choose your own adventure stories where you get to decide, you get to do the critical thinking and the analysis about what's going on, and it will take you down different pathways and create different data sets for you. So that's at our upper level. You've already got a lot of background knowledge in chemistry, so we're just pushing those boundaries a little further for you. One thing that's really exciting that's been developed is what's happening at the second year level is, again, kind of a choose your own adventure, but instead of it being video based, it's going to be live with your TA. So we've got an opportunity where your TA is going to live stream your directions to what he's going to be doing. So he's an excellent TA. You're very lucky that he came up with this idea. It's super exciting. He's going to have several cameras around the room and be like, okay, the lab manual says to do this. How do I do it? So you're going to essentially direct him through the experiment like he's a puppet. You're the puppeteers. You'll have opportunity to discuss, have discussions about whether they should do, stirring first or mixing first, preparing the procedure. So while it doesn't feel interactive because you're the ones manipulating the equipment, you will have full ownership of what goes on in that laboratory. At the first year level, and this is where my expertise sort of really pushes the boundary here. What we typically do in a first year lab is we get you to practice some of the manipulation skills. So a lot of the conceptual pieces get sort of buried under like practicing this technique. So what we're doing is we're using this opportunity to elaborate on the concepts and tie those more closely to the manipulation techniques because you won't get to practice those. So we're really excited about pushing the boundaries on, like, why do you think we do it this way? Why did we pick this piece of glassware instead of this piece of glassware? These are opportunities that we normally wouldn't have, because in our 3-hour period, your focus is to get the data, make the experiment work, and then walk away and have some conclusion at the end. So we already know that there's a conclusion. We're going to provide you with data sets. So we get to back up a step and really focus on those conceptual pieces. So you're not just the lab rat in the lab, you're the one making the decisions. You're the one who's going to really like narrow down why we do the things in the lab that we do. So at least that's what we're hoping that will come out of the lab experience in this online environment. We're expanding on the way that we can write our typical lab reports. We're doing pre-labs in a different way. But what it really all comes down to is your TAs are there to support you. They're there to have discussions with you. And we really want to focus on the conceptual pieces. You will get time to practice those skills when we eventually come back face to face. For the first year students who might be upset that they're missing those experiences, the second year students are just budding with those experiences and they're wanting to get those moving into their 3rd year level. And the 4th year students, they have those experiences, so we're really going to push the conceptual pieces. But I think in the short term, what you can expect is that we are excited about the transition because it's offering us opportunities to do things that we've never done before. So I think I'll leave it there, Heather, and I'm happy to answer more specific questions moving forward.
Thanks so much, Professor Freeman. Now I'd like to move this conversation a little bit to how students will be supported in learning outside of class. And our first panelist on this topic is Sajni Lisi, who is the Learning and Curriculum Support Librarian. She's going to speak to learning supports available through the library.
Great, thank you, Heather. I'm just gonna wait for my slides to pop up. Okay, great. So I'm very excited to welcome everyone to the online library experience. So I've got a picture of our physical library here, but unfortunately our physical library will not be open for the fall, but the building right beside it called the Commons is going to be open for student space. And there are a bunch of spaces available on campus that are both bookable and drop-in. And so we'll hopefully give you some details about that during the kind of question period. But overall for the library, we just want you to know that many of our resources are still available. We're all still working. We're all still here to provide you with virtual reference services and material delivery. So I'll just ask for my next slide. And really there's kind of 5 big things we want you to know about the library as you're coming in. You can access pretty much everything from the library remotely using your CWL, which is your campus-wide login. You have access to over 7 million items, both in print and online through the library to support you in your coursework. And you can access most of the print items that are here in the Okanagan and in Vancouver through contactless pickup. And there's a librarian for every subject at UBCO. So you're probably going to get some information about your librarian or the basics of using the library in more detail in a number of your first year classes. And that will help you in terms of getting a sense of what a librarian can support you with and what the library has to offer in more detail. And really all we want you to know is that we're here to answer your questions and at least point you in the right direction. So if you're not sure where to go, you can always ask the librarian. We'll at least try and get you in the right place. So ask my next slide, thanks. So here are some questions that you can ask, and these are very typical questions that we get primarily from either students new to UBC or first year students. So I won't read through all of them, but questions about citations we get a lot of, looking for peer-reviewed articles. How do you find something for a research project? You need primary sources for your history paper. If you've never started or written a research paper before, where do you start? Do some of our resources come as ebooks versus print books? We can definitely find that for you. And you can, of course, make appointments with us to talk about your research. So if you just need somebody to kind of walk you through some of those things, we can do that for you. And then my next slide, please. And so there's lots of different ways you can reach out to the library, because obviously some of these things you're not going to need until a little later into the semester. So we have a chat library service where you can ask questions through a live chat through most business hours and a little bit later into the day. And that's on our library homepage. So that's for immediate help. If you need help soon, you've got our chat service, you've got the library email, and you can still phone us. We may not be able to pick up, but we will definitely answer you if you give us a contact information for you. If you've got some time and you're planning ahead, you can use our chat service, the email, phone us. You can email your librarian directly through Ask Your Librarian. And we also have the Student Learning Hub for other resources, which I know some folks are going to talk about shortly. And then we have some do-it-yourself guides as well. So research guides for pretty much every subject you could be taking, where to start with your research, as well as some citation guides to help you get started. And then my last slide. Thank you. But all we really want you to know is that we're here for you when you need us. So don't hesitate to reach out. The library is definitely excited to work with you, and we can't wait to support you in whatever you get up to this semester. So I'll leave it there, and thanks so much.
Thanks very much, Sajni. We're also going to hear about some of the peer supports for students that are available through the Student Learning Hub and the Peer Mentor Program. Peer connections are an essential part of learning at university, so who better to hear from than your peer leaders? First, we'll hear from Harshita Chopra, a senior online learning coach in the Student Learning Hub and third-year philosophy, political science, and economics student, followed by Eloise Espel, peer mentor and fourth-year computer science student. First, I'm going to ask Harshita if she can speak.
Thank you, Heather. So this year, the Student Learning Hub is your virtual one-stop shop for all undergraduate learning support and resources that are available at UBC Okanagan. The Student Learning Hub is free and it's for everyone. So students from all disciplines and all year levels are welcome to use the services offered by the Hub. We offer a variety of different services, one of them being the math and science tutoring. Our math and science tutors are there to help you with those notorious calculus and physics courses. Now, they won't solve your midterm problems for you, they won't give you your lab answers, but they're definitely there to help you with the concepts that you're grappling with, the concepts that you find difficult. We also have writing consultants available for you who are there to assist you with writing all sorts of papers, from lab reports to research assignments. Now, again, they won't necessarily edit your paper for you or write it for you, but they're there to offer a second set of eyes. They'll give constructive feedback, and they will offer advice on organizing your paper and clarifying your arguments. We also have our English language development program, where tutors are available to help you with English pronunciations, grammar, and just the conventions of English, if that is what you're looking for. Besides English, we also offer tutoring in French and Spanish. This year, we have a big team of online learning coaches. Online learning coaches are there to offer you individualized support. So they'll help you with setting and meeting academic goals via telling you and helping you build effective study habits. We also have 2 graduate learning coaches available in our team this year. Our most popular program is the supplemental learning program, which is where SL leaders, which are typically upper year students, will host weekly study sessions, and they'll help you solve practice questions. You can ask your doubts, and you can revise difficult concepts during midterm season or finals. This is one of the, as I mentioned, this is one of the most popular programs on our campus, and research has shown that if you attend 4 or more SL sessions, your grade would typically be bumped by 5 percentage points. Our SL sessions are available for those, again, notorious courses of engineering, economics, statistics, and other sciences as well. On the next slide, I have a few links that I encourage you guys to make note of. In order to book an appointment with us, you need to visit MyWC Online and then create an account, then select the service that you're looking for, and book a time slot that works best for you. We have drop-in sessions that are available starting today, and if you're available to join us for a drop-in session, I encourage you to do so. Online learning coaches basically act as a bridge between you and the resources that are available, not only in the Student Hub, but on campus in general, online or in person. And these are all upper year students, so this is more of a conversation between a student to a student rather than someone senior. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us via the emails mentioned on the slide, or check out our website to learn more about the programs I just mentioned. And that's all about the Student Lab. With that, I'll just pass it back to Heather.
Thanks so much, Harshita. I'm now going to invite Eloise.
Thanks, Heather. Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to tell you what we're doing with the Peer Mentor program this year. So the Peer Mentor program is accessible to all new to UBC students. So that's first-year students, transfer students, but really anyone else who is new to the UBC community. And so it's going to be a social space. It's for you to create a sense of belonging to the school, make connections, create new friendships, and really get this part of the university experience in an online platform. What is going to happen is that if you're a new to UBC student, you will be paired with a peer mentor, and you'll be able to book one-on-one appointment with that peer mentor, as well as connect with other mentees, go to events that will be hosted by the peer mentor program through the semester, and really ask any question that you have. So to access this really great resource, you'll have a Canvas shelf. So once you log in on Canvas, there will be different shelf with the different courses you're taking and the different resources that you can access. So go on the peer mentor shelf, and that's where you'll be able to book appointment with your mentor, as well as meet the other new to UBC students, access the discussion board if you really have any question at all on anything about UBC. And we'll also have drop-in sessions. So I said that you'll be able to book an appointment with your mentor. If that day you haven't had time to book an appointment, but you really need to talk to someone or ask a question, you can come to the drop-in and someone will be here to answer it. That Canvas shelf, for those who are wondering, will be open on Tuesday to the latest, but keep an eye on it because it might open earlier. You will be meeting your mentor for the first time on September 8th, so during Create. When you go on the Create bookshelf on Canvas, there'll be a link to meeting your peer mentor, and that will be a really exciting day because you'll also be meeting the other mentees in your group. So I really encourage you to go. So if you're new to UBC, really explore that Canvas shelf, take part in the discussion board, and make your appointment with your mentor for the first time. Get that conversation going. Your mentor is here to support you. Even if you just want to talk to someone, your mentor is here for that. If you don't know where to go and you have a question, your mentor will know where to refer you and how to help you. So take advantage of this resource. And if you have any questions for me, feel free to ask at the end. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Eloise and Harshita. We're now going to hear some additional information about how students are being supported within the UBC Okanagan system. I'd like to introduce Dr. Bryce Traister, who's the Dean of the Faculty of Creative and Critical Studies and the Dean Pro Tem of the Irving K. Barber Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. We're going to hear first from him and then from Scott Reed, who is the Associate Dean from the Irving K. Barber Faculty of Science. Both will discuss how faculties are planning to support students. Dr. Traister.
Thanks, Heather, and hi, everyone. My name is Bryce, and I'm the Dean of Creative and Critical Studies, which is the Humanities and Fine Arts faculty here on the campus. I'm also a Pro Tem Dean for Arts and Social Sciences, which includes things like psychology, gender women's studies, indigenous studies, anthropology, the social sciences. We've been hard at work over the summer preparing online learning experiences that will be valuable and hopefully impactful for you as you are either beginning your studies with us here in first year or continuing as an upper year student or graduate student here at UBCO. We recognize that the online learning environment is really not what any of us signed up for. We've really been doing our best as faculty members to put together learning experiences that will really invite you into the conversations of intellectual life and learning that really bring all of us to the university campus, regardless of what we study. We've also been trying to figure out ways to support your learning outside of the online environment of a Zoom classroom or a Canvas classroom. In the fine arts, for example, we have put together a plan that will enable students to do work on campus in our art studios on a sign-up basis in support of the learning that you're doing online. One of the commitments that we have made to students and that we will continue to honor as best we can is that students will receive the same educational opportunity if they are working somewhere on campus or in Kelowna or in British Columbia, as they will if they are working in some other country, in India, in the UK, in the United States. We believe very strongly in the equitable access to education for all students. And so as we've put together certain supports to enable your learning in the online environment, we hope to be able to supplement them in ways that do two things. One is support your learning, support your ambitions and goals, and also keep you safe. All of the decisions that the university has been making and working with has been your safety at the top of the list. It's the thing that matters to us as much as anything else, which is to ensure that the learning that you're doing while a student at UBC is a safe learning experience in all senses of that term. Different faculties and different departments will have different ways of kind of delivering the online learning education. One of the pieces I want to touch on briefly before turning things over to my colleague is to make a commitment to you as students on behalf of the faculty and the staff at UBCO, which is that I really think that we're all going to be defaulting for compassion and understanding with our students. We understand that this is an unusual learning environment for you. We understand this is not what many of you signed up for. We didn't either. We understand that things are going to arise that none of us can anticipate, no matter how well we plan, and that we will do what we can to work with what comes our way. And that includes responding to you, our students, individually, compassionately, with empathy for your situation, where you're coming from, what your needs are. We ask only that you are patient with us as we, your faculty, are also learning how to navigate this new learning environment. And as we learn and as we navigate together, really for the first time, many of us, we will make mistakes. We will do our best to correct those mistakes. We will do our best to respond to you as a person, as a whole person. And the university has a lot of supports in place to enable you to be a whole person student who will be able to succeed here with us. I'm happy to answer any particular questions at any time. Please do not feel shy about reaching out, even to a dean or to your faculty members. If you have particular questions about course content, course delivery, expectations, and so forth, we're here to help you learn in all senses of that word, and we look forward to welcoming you virtually to your studies here with us. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Dean Traister. I'm now going to invite Professor Reed to make his remarks.
Thank you and welcome everyone. It's a great opportunity to speak with you today, wherever and whenever you are. I'm the Associate Dean of Students in the Irving K. Barber Faculty of Science, and it's my honor to represent the faculty. You've heard a lot of information today. I'd like to echo the comments just made by Dean Traister about supporting your education and your experience. Hopefully you've been listening and being engaged in this town hall because you've received a lot of information about supports that are normally offered on campus that are now offered online. The investment that's been made in the quality of our education, the experience, and to ensure that that experience is the same as, if not better or higher quality than it was in previous years. We've had to do a lot of thinking about why we do the things we do and how it impacts our students because of this ongoing global pandemic. It's not going to be the same experience, but hopefully it will be something that you will be proud of, something that all of us in this community of scholars will appreciate and look back on fondly. Maybe, maybe not. There are other opportunities for you to connect and be part of your department, part of your program, part of your faculty, no matter which one it is. One of those would be something that hasn't been mentioned is course unions. Many of the department-specific programs or programs themselves have course unions or clubs. They can be relied on to give you support as well. There's also groups. Many of the groups that are normally, or clubs that are normally on campus that are sort of outside the academics of the institution, but give you a sense of community here, will also be online. So make sure you connect with them. If you've had an opportunity to interact with me through Jumpstart, you will know that to me, your education is a journey, not a race. You need to enjoy it. We will do the best we can at making sure that you are supported, that you get the knowledge and the skills that you require. Now that it's online, it will be no different. But it's for you also to know that those resources are there to draw upon them. One of my responsibilities as the Associate Dean of Students is making sure that I coordinate those supports and make sure I know what's available so that if you come to us, we can lead you in the right direction. Okay? You also need to be able to ask what's going on. But just remember, I guess the message I want to give you is just remember that you're probably attracted to UBC because UBC has a reputation of providing a quality education for generating high quality students. And that reputation was earned based on the experiences that students got before you, that graduated in years past. Some of the rules that we have in place that the faculties will have to deal with as we go through this and learn our way through this are there to maintain the quality of the education and the standard of the degree, so that when you have an opportunity to graduate, when you go out into the workforce after this, that degree that you've worked so hard to earn has the same value, means the same thing as it did years ago. So we'll work hard to support you. There are things that we can and can't do, but as Dean Traster said, be patient with us. We will be patient with you. One of the catchphrases and principles is going to be flexibility. There's going to be a lot of alternatives that are going to be tried. There's been a huge investment over the summer in things that will support you and the way that you can learn. And we're in this together. It's going to be an experience. And when this is all over, we'll have an opportunity to celebrate. We'll be looking forward to seeing you on our campus. But for now, virtually, we'll probably have to do. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Reed. So we've now reached the part of the program where we are going to try to respond to some of your questions. The Q&A box is open, and I'll remind you that if you want to ask a question of our panelists, you click on the Q&A icon at the bottom of your Zoom window. You can engage with the questions that have already been asked by liking the questions that you find the most interesting, and this will help us move them up to the top of the list. We may not get to all of the questions today. We're going to do our best. For the Q&A section, we have some additional members of our executive joining us to help answer your questions, and I'll invite them to identify themselves if they wish when I say their names. Dr. Gina Delabio, who's the Dean in the Irving K. Barber Faculty of Science. Sandy Hilton, Senior Instructor representing the Faculty of Management. Peter Simpson, the Dean in the College of Graduate Studies. Karen Raghunathan, Professor representing the Okanagan School of Education. Manuel Ariki, the Associate Dean in the Faculty of Health and Social Development. Rehan Sadiq, Executive Associate Dean in the School of Engineering. Yang Chao, Associate Director for Undergraduate Students, School of Engineering. Michelle Loughton, who's been the Interim Associate Vice President Students since January 2020. And also joining us today is Dale Mullings, our new Associate Vice President Students, who started his role officially yesterday, so welcome. Dale comes to UBC from University of Toronto, Mississauga, where he served as Assistant Dean, Students and International Initiatives since 2013. In his new role, Dale will be leading the student portfolio, which creates programs that aim to improve student success, facilitate program connections between students and their academic units, and build institutional affinity. So thank you, Dale, for being so willing to jump right into the thick of things. While I have Michelle and Dale here, I'm gonna go to one of the questions that's been voted very high, and I'm sure that that's understandable from your perspective, and it has to do with some of the student fees that are being paid. Can I perhaps ask you to speak a little bit to the idea of the student fees that will be paid in the coming term?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that or to lead with that. One of the questions I see on here is around tuition. Your tuition has med and dental fees. Those fees are on there for students that require coverage for medical and dental. Many of our students access those services, so they don't necessarily want to opt out of them. For those of you that may want to opt out of them, I encourage you to go to studentcare.ca and you can opt out of those fees if you have additional coverage already through your family. So you could read all the details on Student Care around how to opt out of that particular fee that's on your tuition. Regarding athletics and rec fees, we've had a lot of discussion about those fees, both on the Okanagan campus and the Vancouver campus. At this point in time, we are, those fees are charged to students. What those fees are for is the ongoing maintenance and operations of the facilities. It's not necessarily for access to the facilities, it's to maintain facilities immediately and for the future. The discussions are around the impact of cutting those fees and the impact to those of you in the future if we cut those fees to our athletics and recreation programs, which are, I would argue, and I think many of you would agree, really valuable parts of our campus life, having access to those facilities, fees, and facilities and programs that are running. And we have a ton of them that are operating virtually right now to support you. And somebody had a question around whether the facilities are open, and they are. So those of you living in the Kelowna area, the facilities are open and accessible right now, including the hangar. Was there other questions, Heather, around fees?
No, thanks so much, Michelle. We're not the top of the list. We may call you back if we...
Okay.
Michelle, did you want to also talk about the UPass fee? I think there was a question about that.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the UPass is opt-in this year. So those of you that are first year and new students may not know how it works. Typically it's opt-out. So you'd have to say if you didn't want it. This year you have to say if you do want it. So the way to do that is on the UBC SUO, so the SUO site. You can opt into that service, and the passes will be available in the green, the used bookstore on the first floor of the University Center. If you're getting a pass, that's where you're going to need to pick it up.
Thanks so much, Michelle. And since we know that you're there, Dr. Muguji, perhaps you would be comfortable to speak a little bit to some of these questions that we're getting around the quality of education and speaking about whether there's any concern about corners being cut or standards for delivery.
Yeah. So, you know, part of the purpose of this town hall was to have students actually hear from those who are creating your educational experience. And I hope you've got some sense from what you heard today that there is absolutely no question of cutting corners. Whatever services were available in person are all available virtually. And that is true of both your education related programs like the supplement learning program or the peer mentoring program, as well as the student services programs, including career support, counseling, and Michelle, advising everything that was available in person are all available online. In terms of support, like in areas of TA-ship, teaching assistants, you would have heard how we're expanding the use of our teaching assistantship to support you. I think every faculty, as required, has increased the number of TAs as required by the online delivery needs. In terms of the actual teaching of the programs, as I think Dr. Reed explained very well, it's the same educational experience, it's the same professors for which you would have come to UBC if it was in person. And throughout the summer, actually since March, when we were hit by the pandemic, there have been two areas in which we have focused our investments, and I think Dr. Traster mentioned both of them. One is the safety and one is education. And as you can imagine that both through our public health guidelines and through our own sort of requirements for upholding your safety. It does require a lot of human and financial and physical resources to ensure that. And similarly with your educational experience, through all kinds of services in the classroom and outside of the classroom, we have kept it as close to your in-person experience as we could have. The third area where we also have not cut corners is, though we don't know exactly when this phase is going to end and we are going to be back in a campus environment, we are trying to put everything in place, hold everything in place so that as soon as that becomes possible, we make that possible as well. So, you know, some of the services and fees that we are maintaining are in anticipation of that back to campus experience, and so that there's a seamless transition again from the online to the face-to-face. So, so I can, you know, confidently say that we are not cutting corners. The remaining question, which was also asked many times, and students are asking, is how is this fair to students? So yes, the question of fairness around students, faculty, staff, all of that is coming up. And, you know, in the short term, given the resources that we have, we are trying to balance it the best that we can. And I think student supports on this campus has been our, I think, the most important focus. We didn't talk today too much about technology supports, but we did also run a technology support program, and that may also need to be expanded, and we're looking at all of that. So I apologize that I don't have a more satisfactory answer, but I do want you to hopefully we can make you see how we can convince you, at least to some extent, as to how the twin goals of safety and the delivery of your online experience as close as possible to the on-campus experience, that we're trying very hard to achieve those two goals. And that's all I can really say at this point.
Thank you very much for that. There are some questions that have still risen to the top, and I completely understand more about quizzes, tests, assessments. And we know this is one of the areas that students are the most concerned about. The specific question that's been upvoted 67 times, and so is clearly very popular, is around things that might go wrong during assessments, or I think that could even be expanded to classes. I think that Professors Gibson and Langton did an amazing job talking about assessment processes, but maybe some of our other faculty members here would like to speak a little bit about how they imagine and envision assessments and addressing anything that's of concern or might go wrong. Would anybody like to volunteer to put themselves on the spot a little bit? Thank you, Professor Freeman.
All right, in terms of assessment, so what I can say for assessment is that in the March break, there were lots of unknowns, lots of moving parts. And what we established was, if this doesn't work, here's the backup plan. And if that doesn't work, here's the backup plan to my backup plan. And I think moving forward, and I think I'm reading the same point, is what happens if there's a technology problem? What happens if there's this or this? Your concern about that is our concern about that. So we have protocols in place. We have backup plans for backup plans for backup plans. If something bad happens, and again, this is a theme that's been echoed by everyone in the panel today, is there's that compassion piece. We're going to believe you when you say your computer kicked you out of the exam for 20 minutes. We're going to believe you when you tell us that some horrendous thing happened. Again, I can't just emphasize enough that we recognize your concern. we as instructors, as faculty members have the same concerns. What if this happens? What if this happens? What if there's a spelling mistake in my test and it ruins the entire question? Backup plans for backup plans.
Thanks so much for that, Professor Freeman. Would anybody else like to speak at all to some of the plans they might have? No pressure, but I want to put that out there as an opportunity to speak to anything you might be especially proud of or that you think students can look forward to. Oh, thank you so much, Professor Gibson.
I just want to reiterate that flexibility is going to be key. And when I was making my plan and thinking about how I was going to do assessments for the entire summer, you know, technical problems with quizzes and tests, this is something that I thought a lot about. And so for that reason, you know, many of my quizzes are on the students' time. So they're sort of low stakes, just completion. But again, it's about flexibility. Professors have thought about this. They've had the summer to think about what they're going to do. I made my decisions so I could avoid situations where, you know, time would matter, where, so I don't have timed exams and I don't have exams that happen at a particular time to avoid people on the other side of the world having to get up at 3 in the morning to write exams. So I think that, as Tamara was saying, I've made my plan based on thinking about the student, and I think the other professors have as well. So like I said, there's just going to be a lot of flexibility. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Professor Gibson. I see that Professor Langton and Professor Taheri have both turned themselves on. So perhaps I'll let each of them just take a quick crack at this question because I really know it's an important question. Maybe Professor Langton first and then Professor Taheri is when she's finished. Thank you.
Sure, thanks, Heather. As other people have definitely reiterated and emphasized, there's going to be a lot of moments for things going wrong. And we also have to have thought in advance of the fact that in other parts of the world, some of the technologies that we would like to use through Canvas, like YouTube or the proctoring service, that sort of thing, are blocked. So there always does have to be this backup plan to the backup plan, basically, that we have to have thought through what's going to happen in those kind of situations so that no student is disadvantaged. And I also believe, although I'm just going from memory here, that, I mean, if a student is having a lot and recurrent problems with connectivity, or their computers are just old or whatever it is, I believe there are some supports for students that will help them to upgrade that sort of thing in order to make it easier to take their classes online. But maybe somebody else knows more about that than I do.
Professor Taheri, do you want to follow up on that?
Yes, I guess in engineering, maybe it's an easier solution, and I'm sure one of my colleagues mentioned that. So we evaluate the students based on the application of what they learn. And when it talks about application, we have lots of project-based learning courses, including myself. We give lots of tools to students, and they use these tools to tackle a realistic everyday problem. And we evaluate a student's progress based on the outcome of the project. This is very common in engineering. In my courses, I have lots of weight on the outcome of the projects. Of course, there are formal exams, but this year I decided to reduce the percentage of the formal exam and put more load on how students perform during the project. That's one of the way myself, and I'm sure many of my colleagues, will pursue based on the current situation.
Thanks so much for that, Professor Taheri. We have another question that I think is representative of a lot of student concerns, and it says specifically will every lecture be recorded and how will students have access to that? I wonder if any of our panelists might be willing to speak a little bit to this idea that we always toss around about synchronous learning and asynchronous learning, and talk a little bit about what that means. Professor Reed.
Yes, thank you. So I guess it's a thing that bothers me is these terms synchronous and asynchronous, and just realize that when you've registered for your courses, you would have gotten a timetable, and if there's synchronous activity in a course, it's live and it will be delivered at the time that course is in your timetable. So if you have a lecture at 8 o'clock on Monday, Kelowna time, that's when the synchronous or live activity will occur. In the Faculty of Science and many of the other faculties, I assume we are giving guidelines or support to our instructors, and one of the things we're talking about is just that. So that if someone has something like a traditional lecture, which would be live, where you connect and see them at the time of the course, that all those live activities or synchronous activities would in fact be recorded. There's a number of tools that are part of the presentation software, part of Canvas, the tool you're using now, that can record those live events. Those live events could be slightly edited, maybe put into more manageable sized pieces, and they will be delivered to students by way of Canvas. So then you can use that as an asynchronous or on-demand part of the course. So if you can't connect at the time the live event is, there is a possibility that you can watch it at a time that is more convenient to you. There is a question about, well, everything's online, so why can't I just do everything whenever I want to? Well, in some courses, there may be participation events. Maybe you have to discuss a paper or do a group project in a breakout group. So there's going to be a little bit of synchronous or live activity in every course, but we are encouraging everyone to record them so that if you can see them at another time. Again, partly to deal with time zone issues, but also these are course resources, so why not have them so you can review them again at another time. I hope that helps.
That was great. Thank you, Professor Reed. Does anybody else want to say anything about this, or can I move on to another question? Oh, perfect. Thanks, Dr. Chow.
Heather, just want to add on to Scott's answer here. School engineering is also promising our students to provide recorded lectures, including also videos and the tutorials. But we also encourage our students to come to lectures if they can. Recorded lecture mostly for international students at different time zones, or students really having some other commitments that couldn't come to the lecture. So coming to lecture, as Dr. Reed said, that's the #1 priority. We encourage everyone to come. Recording is just a backup plan. UBC is not an online university, and we are trying to provide as much as in-person touch as possible.
Thanks so much for providing that perspective. Professor Raghunathan, would you like to chime in?
Yes, thank you, Heather. I just really wanted to emphasize, the importance of the social context of learning. And in particular, as you're looking at your first year courses or your second year courses, to really take full advantage of the collaborative aspects that have been included in your learning. So whether it's through the chat rooms, the discussion groups, I know in education, we have developed conversation cafes for our students. So after our lectures, whether they be live or recorded, we have organized time for groups of students to get together and discuss the content. So I encourage each and every one of you to take advantage of those collaborative aspects, and as much as you can, discuss with one another the learnings and the different, explorations that you'll be making this year. Thanks, Heather.
Could I add one more sentence, if I may?
Of course you can, Professor Derek.
So I agree that many courses are synchronized and some students are in different time zone. I think in the School of Engineering, many of my colleagues, including myself, aside from the lecture, we have also office hours, and we set our office hours in a way that accommodate many time zones in the world. Like if you're in China, so your 7 o'clock morning is going to be my evening. So we accommodate the fact that the students at different time zones, they may need extra help, and realistically, my office door is always open. We open door policy, but we set it up in a way that they can, in their convenient time, they can come to the chat room and to Zoom. Actually, I invite them to ask any questions during our office hours. Thank you.
Thanks so much for that, Professor Taheri. There are many, many questions that have been presented here, and we don't have time to answer all of them, that's for sure. We've tried to do the highest upvoted questions and to respond to what we think are some of the most important concerns we're hearing from students. As was said earlier, please, please reach out to your faculty members, to the deans, to associate deans, to those in our Student Learning Hub in our library. We are happy to take and answer those questions for you directly. That is why we're here. Just now at the end of our session today, I'd like to invite again our Provost and Vice President Academic, Anani Mukherjee, to provide some closing remarks.
Thank you, Heather. So it was great listening to all of you, and it's too bad that we can only interact with the students through the chat, but I want to assure you that we take all of these questions very seriously. In fact, you know, coming from our first town hall to the second town hall, we really use the student feedback to structure even the town halls. So it would be very important for you to reach out to whoever you can, pose your questions, ask for your answers, and we will try to continue to provide them. The video of this town hall will be posted so that you can see the speakers, you can contact them as and when you want, and also students who are maybe in different time zones or could not join us will be able to see them. Just to close, I want to emphasize what I said before, that we are trying our best with the resources that we have to continue to deliver UBC to wherever you are, along with the safety requirements that we are required to uphold, because everybody's safety, our community safety, your safety, is a big obligation that we have. So we will continue, and you also please explore and take advantage of all of the options of learning, interaction, and so on. And we will all try to prepare, hope for the time when we can all be back on campus. So I'll stop there and hope to hear from you soon.